You've been cancelled from Reform, haven't you?
Right, yeah. So yesterday, little old me made the news a little bit. Quite literally, some of the mainstream news. So yeah, I got cancelled in a limited sense. I got deselected. Hope Not Hate did a hit piece on me. I've been mentioned by them before, but they did a whole thing. What's the name? Greg Davies? Is it Greg? Greg something or other.
Gregory.
Yeah, they did a whole thing. Some of my greatest hits, actually. So the first thing I need to say is that I do need to apologise for absolutely nothing. No, I double down. I stand by, like an actual man, I stand by everything I've ever said within reason. And they picked out a bunch of quotes that I said, and yeah, no, I stand by it.
I like the way you did that. As your Wolf of Wall Street moment, I'm not fucking leaving.
Well, I was going to. Conor McGregor did a famous "I apologise for absolutely fucking nothing."
Absolutely not.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I honestly wear it like a badge of honour. Honestly, really do. So you know, commies are going to commie. So I'm not actually any more annoyed or pissed off with Hope Not Hate than I was 2 days ago. That's what they do, you know, right? If a fox gets in a chicken coop and kills all the chickens, you don't really blame the fox. It's what it's going to do. And more annoyed at the person that built the fence or failed to build the fence that let the fox in the first place. Because this led to, within very short order, within a couple of hours or something, I was deselected from Reform.
Sorry for the interruption. I'm Father Calvin Robinson, and you can watch my Common Sense Crusade at 3 p.m. on Thursdays only on lotuseaters.com, where you can sign up for as little as £5 per month. Deus Vult.
So first thing to say on that is, just for me personally, it's not really that much of a big deal. Like, to be perfectly honest, it's a weight off for a few different reasons. I can go back to saying whatever I want to say. I have to toe any sort of party line. And the whole thing is quite stressful and very, very time consuming. One thing I must say on that immediately is that I was in it in a very real sense at the time. And though I'm going to be quite rude about Reform here, the normal people that are running it, not the leadership, the normal people that are in it, and the activists, the people giving up their time, they're the salt of the earth. They're great people giving up their time and energy just because they want their country back. So I don't want to cast aspersions on those people, even though it seems now that they, along with me, was hoodwinked in some way. I don't want to pour any scorn on those people. As I say, they're mostly or entirely really great people trying to do the right thing.
Because the thing about politics, I find, is that people forget it's completely volunteer-based. The vast majority of the actual work is just people who are giving up their time and money to try and help you. And those people are the best human beings you could ever ask for.
Yeah, because it's not like Hope Not Hate have robbed me of my rightful place in Parliament. I was going to come third, almost certainly going to come third, going to get 2,000 or 3,000 votes. I was a paper candidate. Reform asked me in the first instance if I would do it. And I knew I'd lose. I'd be a paper candidate, and I did it anyway. It's like a symbolic thing. So it's far from the end of the world for me. But yeah, so Hope Not Hate did this piece, and some of my quotes, and they're not it's nothing bad really. Again, I stand by everything I ever wrote or said, basically, and they're all basically reform policies as well. You know, calling for a clear out of the civil service, calling for no migration or even mass deportations needed.
Of criminals and illegals, especially.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that was actually a sort of a libelous slur is that they claimed I wanted to deport British citizens. At no point did I say that. There was a community note on Twitter pointing out that that's not. I didn't actually say that. I've got no intention of bringing any sort of libel case because I feel like that's weak. I'm not going to do anything like that. But
and don't Reform also want to flush Scotland away? That's one of them.
Yeah.
We'll get to that probably.
Yeah, no, I mean, can touch on that now. I mean, of course, everyone knows the problem with Scotland is that it's full of Scots.
Yeah, they should have seen that coming. It's in the name.
As we all know.
But this is a joke.
Yeah.
That's the thing that was really funny. I'll let you explain, I suppose. But in here, they have a section complaining that, oh my God, he said rude things about Scotland. And it's like, yeah, it's comedy.
Yeah, it was clearly a joke. In the actual stream that they got that off of, I was on with Graham Moore, an English Constitutional Party. And I said, they don't like to quote that bit, but I said, I'm joking here. What I'm about to say is firmly tongue-in-cheek. and all that sort of stuff. So it was clear it was joking.
I mean,
And-
here's the line, if you want to read it.
The Scottish economy is tiny anyway, just a statement of fact. I mean, what do they actually export? Iron brew and smack?
But it's obviously a joke.
That's funny, isn't
Like-
it? I mean, come on, anyone hearing that is like, that is funny. The fact they included that, I was just saying to you before, if I was doing a hit piece on you, I wouldn't have included that because then everyone would just look at, oh, this is banter. This is hilarious pub banter, right?
I maintain that that's funny.
Yeah.
And no, I don't apologise. No, I'm not humbled or chastened or repentant or anything. No. Oh, well, I forgot to mention one of their other main exports is tramps, of course. If anyone's been to London. No, it's my God-given right as an Englishman to be rude and dismissive about Scots and Welsh and Irish.
It's not like-
It's not going to stop.
It's
Okay?
not like they don't do it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Well, that's
They
the
do
beauty of
same
it.
when
We're
you're at
rude
the
to each other.
festival or whatever. They hate us. They actually hate us. We're just
Right.
joking.
Yeah.
Yeah. As far as the English are concerned, they're like a turd that won't flush. That is quite rude. But one thing I would say, if you ever watched the stream, I was talking historically. I was even actually paraphrasing Edward I Longshanks. He said there's a line when he deprived Scotland of its sovereignty at one point in one of his many wars with the Scots. I can't remember if he was deposing the Bruce or something, one of the Bruces. And he said, when a man does a good day's work when he rids himself of a turd, when he conquered Scotland once.
Edward
So-
the First.
Yeah, Longshanks.
Yeah, I for one am surprised they didn't get the Edward the First reference there. That's
Well,
like,
Scottish nationalists
mean-
don't really know history.
Right.
It's the greatest thing that ever happened to Scotland joining the Union. It's anyway. I've got very little respect for Scottish nationalists. Another thing I would say is that Scottish people, by and large, are brilliant. Their land is absolutely beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. But Scottish nationalists, no, I've got no respect for them. No. The way they conduct themselves in Westminster is atrocious. They're very small, aren't they, the SNP? Very mean and small. No. I'm not going to apologise for anything.
But that's the funny part. I mean, that is just pure comedy. These are statements about policy, much of which is reform policy, getting rid of foreigners who've committed crimes and whatnot. So that's the hit piece, which
Well, one last thing I want to say about Scotland is that there was when I made it into the mainstream media, first of all, it was the Daily Record, which is a Scottish newspaper. I believe they outed Woes and maybe did something against Morgoth and all sorts of people. They're weirdos. And I'm actually on the front page of the print version today. Oh, there you go. Doing the old people's eyebrow, the bow brow. I want a copy of that. If there's anyone out, this is a direct appeal. If there's anyone out there that gets a copy of that, please send it into the Lotus Eaters PO box address. I really want a copy. I talked earlier about how I wear these things as a badge of honour. That's not cope. That's
is
my
actually-
genuine opinion. I'd love to have a copy of that I would actually frame.
that is impressive to make it onto the real front page, not just the internet. I'm quite impressed by that. Because I've been sort of cancelled in a mini way. I haven't made any front pages yet. I mean, I might after this segment, but I don't know how we're going to end it. But that's impressive. Can I ask you one question, but
Yeah,
play
yeah.
devil's advocate? Is there any part of you that thinks, because I remember even Carl doing a segment a while ago where he said, or it might have been a tweet or something, he was saying that Farage was right to distance himself from Carl and he understood it. Is there any part of you that thinks this is party politics? You've said some, let's say, intemperate things. They have to be like, okay, we want to be a mainstream party and we have to do this. Or do you just think it's just full capitulation to the mob?
Yeah, no, the latter, because Hope Not Hate and organisations like them will not stop. They'll never stop, like a Terminator. They will come for every single person, every single candidate reform goes for.
Yeah.
I was just low hanging fruit. I'm just like an obvious choice. I've got so many articles out there, hours and hours of content. I was just like really, really easy to pick off. I almost certainly knew I was probably be deselected before the general election happened. But yeah, no.
if there's weakness.
Sorry?
If there's weakness. Because, I mean, what that is quote binding, which is boring, not interesting. But I should explain there's a bit more context to this than just yourself, although that's the big thing for us, obviously. As we can see here, that you're one of three that Hope Not Hate have come after.
Oh, yeah.
So it's an actual purge by Hope Not Hate calling up reform and saying ban these people. And then you've got to ask, well, who the hell are these people? If you're new and you don't know, well, they're communists. I mean, I've done this before, which is here's some archive links of their head of research, Matthew, where is it, Collins over there, who's saying on Facebook he's a member of the Communist Party. Here's him posting with the old symbol of Hope Not Hate. There you are. Saying,
Billy Bragg.
Yep, that's the exact same account. And then further, this same account is talking to the Communist Party of Great Britain. But the thing that's hilarious about this is that Hope Not Hate advocate themselves as like anti-extremists. Here is Michael Collins talking about his past before becoming a communist.
My name's Matthew Collins. I'm the head of intelligence or research at Hope Not Hate. I'm a former member of the National Front.
Oh,
So he used to be in the National
Sorry,
Front.
what?
oh,
Used to be in the National Front, then left and became a member of the Communist Party of Great Britain, and he's the one dictating to reform who is an extremist.
I couldn't believe that when I saw it. I thought like it was an AI or something. I was like, did he actually say National Front? I checked out. He was quite big in it. He was an organizer. He was getting stuck into some sort of protest that got nasty. He was really involved in it. People never talk about this.
Oh.
And you're like, why are we listening to these people? As you say, and now they're communist extremists. And this is where the right goes so wrong, as you say. I understand party politics, but this thing of like capitulating, I mean, they're trying to take out GB News every day, which is my job. And now they're trying to take out you guys. It's just, why play their game?
Well, so that's the next thing I want to say. Just to go to Richard Tice. It went up through the party quite quickly, and we found out through back channels that he did make the decision and thought what I'd written was unacceptable on whatever level. So there's no other conclusion to come to than that he's a moral coward. He's afraid of being called a racist, and that's
By
not
communists.
by communists, by our political implacable enemies.
And a former racist.
Yeah,
I mean-
former racist. Genuinely
Yeah, right.
National Front guys there.
So what is that? You must call it sort of a type of spinelessness.
Well, they're trying to replace the Tories, aren't they, as the kind of mainstream alternative, and they're trying to be a kind of inch to the right on the Overton window. It's a kind of Thatcherism plus a bit tougher on immigration because that's the current problem. You know what I mean? That's sort of where they position themselves. So they're just like, okay, we can't afford any right wing people.
Well, I joked
But
earlier
then what's
about
the point in existing?
Yeah.
I joked earlier about not apologising for anything. If I was to give any actual apology, it would be to the people that told me that reform are just a containment project and what are you doing? You're misguided. And I argued that it wasn't and that it's a political calculation. They're polling well. What other options have we got? They want net zero migration. And I dismissed those people. Well, I do owe them an actual apology because they were right. They were right. He is revealed as a containment project, and I feel like Isabel Oakeshott probably wears the trousers quite a lot. It's weak. It's weak sauce. He's a weakling.
I actually posted a few weeks ago. I can't remember what it set it off, but I posted that reform were decent banter, and they might lead to Rishi getting his comeuppance, but they're not radical enough for where we are right now. I actually posted that because they're just so when I say radical, they're just very, very mainstream, very cautious, and they want to be the new Tories, as you've discovered.
Well, there's a tweet there by our very own Dan Tubb. I mean, look at the eyes. I mean, it's sort of because when you're in the party, you've got to toe the line at least to some extent. Tice would do and say things that I absolutely didn't agree with, like this,
Obsessing over
like
a foreign
shilling for
nation.
Zelensky. Yeah, I mean,
Because it's a foreign nation. Like, I'm sorry, we're in crisis every year. Every month, things get worse. There's a reason people don't care that much about foreign wars in this country. It's not just because we're an island nation. Things are getting bad.
when this happened, I had to keep my mouth shut, just sort of let it happen because the dear leader has decided. I mean, look at the expression in his eyes. Is that mental? Is it me or is that mental?
That might be a bit personal rather than policy point. But
Well, yeah, all right, fair enough. No, fair enough. But the policy is mental. I mean, it is unfortunately containment.
But talking about that containment aspect, because I had this worry in the back of my head, and I was like, okay, probably not, because you've spoken to the leadership, you've interacted with them, everything was fine.
we've both interviewed Tice.
Yeah, the people I'd met have been fantastic. Everyone's been fantastic. All of the activists, you speak to them and they get it on every single level.
100%.
And then there's the policy, and the policy is pretty good as well. I mean, I suppose we'll bring it up. This is the article they said, or at least Tice himself said, this is the reason he got rid of you. And in here, you're arguing for, as you say, a purge of the civil service and a deportation of illegals and criminals, which is hundreds of thousands of people. And he said this was the reason you were gotten rid of, and that's party policy. So when looking at the face of it, it's like, okay, well, all of the pieces are in place for them actually to be something. And then 30 minutes before we got the news of the hit piece on you, there was a defection from the Tories in Manchester to Reform, and the Reform candidate was just kicked out. And I was like, okay, I'm a bit worried that these guys are actually just going to try and now defect as many Tories as they can, which is mad because that's the people who just ruin the country. And then we get the news that they kicked you, and it's like, and then we found out they kicked a whole bunch of other people in this week as well because of a communist group told them to.
And I think they're re-vetting everyone with the help of Hope Not Hate. I'm not sure if that's entirely true, but
Who else is doing it?
Mm. That is the key mistake, isn't it? There's party politics. I've had Richard Tice on my podcast. Seems like a nice guy, etc. But then there's that capitulating to the left in a way they wouldn't do. Occasionally, a lefty has to go because they're actually anti-Semitic or something. But mainly, they just ignore the right. They don't care. They just get away with doing what they want. We even on GB News, we have like Michael Walker, who's basically a communist as far as I could see. Carl's never on there.
Yeah.
So there's no equivalent on the right, even though Carl's far more moderate.
The hard left are allowed on GB News, but the centre right aren't.
Yeah, madness. So that's where we are. That's where the Overton window is. And it's been that way. I mean, you've had Nima on here. He would sort of say it's been that way since the 60s. We're trapped in that paradigm. And we have to somehow break out of that. And this kind of thing is just puts you back to square one.
Well, Dr. Parvini does talk about the friend-enemy distinction. And so if you're going by that, Tice again has revealed himself as being in cahoots with communists, at least on some level. So again, what conclusion can you really come to with the friend-enemy thing? Like, what is it? What is going on? I mean, my main feeling about all of this was not really anger or sort of personal disappointment. It was more sort of frustration that the country is back to square one in many ways. That reform was some sort of vent, something to vote for, perhaps. But it's just not though, right? They're the same.
If your long-term tactic now is that you're happy to be bullied by communists, you will just end up in the same place the Tories are because that's how they ended up there. And okay, if that's what you're doing, on a leadership level, you're not interesting. You're the same people who just ruined the country because they allowed themselves to be bullied by communists.
Is there any argument that they would try and get power and then actually do some good stuff? But on the way to that, they have to be careful or something?
Maybe. I mean, hopefully. I don't wish reform as an entity, all the activists and all the people, I don't wish them ill will. If they could change the leadership and get someone else, someone with some actual charisma and leadership, some balls. I mean, Tice, it's like...
Well, Farage, people
like
going
a
to come
boy.
back at some point, isn't he? People say. Would that make a difference if Farage comes back?
Maybe, hopefully. I don't know.
But it's a level of trust. And if you treat your own activists in a way that's, okay, they've said something like the average voter, kick them. Do I really trust you when you get to the halls of power to be able to implement what you're saying? Because the thing that comes to mind is Maloney in Italy. This lady who campaigned endlessly on we need to close the borders, we need to deal with these people coming from Libya. And then once she got in power, has utterly betrayed literally everyone that got her there.
I also think a little bit of Trump with the sort of Jan 6 people, and there's always this feeling with Trump that has he really supported, the activist base, whatever we want to call it. Though I was thinking about Trump as well with this article. I haven't read this article, but we could always argue that it's a sort of, if you say something outrageous, you could argue it's a sort of Trumpian first offer. You know what I mean? When he's like, well the Mexicans will build the wall. This was like, this is rhetoric. This is kind of, there is something to be said for sort of bold rhetoric that isn't always to be taken literally as well. You could make that case.
Well, sorry, if you want to...
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, there's pieces there. They archived it if anyone wants to go reading it. And in here, Beau is literally arguing, okay, Britain is broken. So, David Cameron. And then there's the parts that, okay, well, what killed it? Mass immigration. So that's the problem. That's what you've got to fix. I mean, the line in here I actually quite like. Firstly, an honest acceptance of the cause of all the most serious problems, mass immigration, and the leftists who have caused it and perpetuated it. The housing crisis in the NHS, street attacks, sexual assaults, organized crime of every stripe, the constant war on our culture, history, heritage, the loss of a high-trust society. All this and so much more can be attributed to mass immigration and the traitors who have forced it upon us. I mean, just correct diagnosis.
Stand by every word, Greg.
That's also Reform's position. I don't know if you noticed.
Yeah. Nigel was tweeting stuff yesterday during the day saying all that sort of thing, but I get deselected for it. I mean,
Yeah. The only thing that seems possibly even contentious is the word traitors. But then again, if you're talking about the sort of the political class that's completely failed the country, I think almost everyone agrees with that.
And this is normal to be used in political life here as well. And then
can't really come to any other conclusion anyway. So
and then the solution, as you pose here, is like, okay, well, we need to purge some departments, get rid of the cancer, and the cancer here being people who are actively subverting the law. So, I mean, you say civil servants and judges who can be shown to have acted against the law or proper procedure or against the interests of the nation should find themselves unemployed and expect prosecutions to follow, pensions cancelled. and then just list all the departments this needs to happen to.
Ah,
That's reform policy.
right.
So they all need
Ticed
push.
has actually talked about that the Home Office isn't fit for purpose and they need to create a new department for all sorts of things,
Right.
veteran affairs, border, all sorts of stuff.
That's the bit that's been quoted out of context that sounds bad, like you're talking about immigrants or something. But what you're actually saying is what sounds like to me now. What you're saying is what Millet said, like afuera, like these departments need to go
Right.
because we're bloated and bureaucratic and
And for the record, I said this long before Millet.
right.
Yep. But the next point here being that, okay, all the
Even
laws that are stretching us need to go. The ECHR needs to be ripped up. The Blairite Supreme Court abolished. It's like,
Where-
afuera, yeah. Again, but the EHRC one there, again, that's reform policy.
Yeah.
This is the bit I don't get looking at all of
That's
this.
even Suella Braverman policy.
Yeah, this
That's,
is...
that's Tory right policy.
And then you go on to say the law firms who are propped of all of this need to be investigated. And then the only bit that I can't see as policy here is the bit that you say that small organizations, this would include a list of, which would be depressingly long, of organizations that have tried to subvert the country. This being the Socialist Workers' Party, the Communist Party, Hope Not Hate getting named, the Runnymede Trust, the BBC Channel 4, etc. All need to be looked at and then dealt with. And it's like, okay. That's the only part that I can't find as policy, which is the banning Hope Not Hate, for example.
Right.
Which, I mean, they literally get money from the state or people like George Soros, so that doesn't seem that hard.
Well, Reform and Ticed at the spring conference said they would want to do away with the BBC fee.
So that's the
But yeah.
BBC gone.
Right. But, well, he's obviously, again, in cahoots in some way, or at least kowtowed to Hope Not Hate. So maybe that was the only thing that he took umbrage at. But
What was your problem with the male group? Because most of those I'm agreeing with, and I'm going the male group. What was that about?
well, just seditious
Right, right.
traitors. A lot of stuff they print. It's just, well, I was in the Express, wasn't I? I was in the Express. I was named in the Guardian. I was in, what
yeah.
else was it? The Mirror. Going for it. Yeah, so
I
there you
think
go.
conventional wisdom is that male is more right wing than those, but you're saying it's not.
yeah, just it used to be the case that if there were organisations or media organs that were openly seditious, then the state would do something about it. That used to be the case. And for some reason, our elites have decided that they do nothing about it. You know, like the BBC or Channel 4 News or something. Just being, well, traitorous, essentially. And that you just do nothing about them and, in fact, keep funding them.
Yeah, with taxpayers'
So,
money.
no, I don't agree with that. Am I even allowed to say so?
Well, I mean, those organizations, I mean, the BBC and Channel 4, have actively engaged in racism against white Brits.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just a single point.
They're
which
race
is-
baiters.
But the idea that that's even a part of your culture, how do you even get to that being a single policy?
Mm.
You know, the culture from the top down is rotten. But to get to the last point here, because this is the thing that actually got lied about, which is Hope Not Hate said that you wanted to deport British citizens. Here's what you wrote. I suggest that the government of the day creates an entirely new department, the Department of Remigration, with its own minister in cabinet. This department will be responsible for the processing and deportation of potentially millions of foreigners and their dependents who have come here since 1997, when our migration policy was first subverted and then ignored, or who have no legal right to be in this country whatsoever. Any foreign national currently in our prison system, for example, would absolutely be remigrated back to their country of origin without delay.
Yes, please.
Isn't that reform policy that foreign criminals should be deported?
Mm.
That's the bit I find mad in all of this. Because as far as I'm aware, Tice's decision was made within like 20 minutes
Well,
of the hit piece.
pretty quick. Well, I don't know if it's that quick, but it was between it going out and me getting an email from the party was a few hours, I think 2 or 3 hours or something
Okay.
like that. So I don't know how quickly he actually made the decision. But yeah, essentially straight away. I mean,
They're seeing it as a sort of low risk thing. We'll get rid of this, candidate, like you say, you didn't think you were going to win anyway. It's sort of no skin off our nose. So it's an easy calculation. But probably they got it wrong because now the backlash online has been quite bad and they've probably lost a lot of potential voters. Do you think?
That's why
Yeah.
I'm looking at it, yeah.
but
That's
the
what I'm
thing
looking
is,
at.
the thing is,
I'm
I'd
not sure
say
anymore.
I don't want to keep banging on about Tice himself, but you know, the buck stopped with him. And Carl said it quite well in the office the other day that it kind of boils down to the fact that he doesn't want to go on Radio 4 or at a dinner party and someone can call him a racist.
Mm.
He's scared, like
Yeah,
like
yeah.
a child or like an old woman. He's scared of being called names.
I was hoping to go to
It's pathetic. It kind of is pathetic. Just like man up. because it's not going to stop, Richard. It's not going to stop. They won't stop.
Well,
So-
those 3 candidates are the beginning.
Of
I mean,
course.
I don't know
They've
how-
already moved on from me. I
Yeah.
know they have.
I don't know what we can mention specifically, but speaking to you this morning, more candidates are already being attacked. Okay, well, there's just, 650 to go. That's all you need to do, is just they're going to keep going candidate by candidate until there's nothing left.
I know what you mean about this sort of he wants to be on or in the polite society. I was hoping to go to Farage's birthday till this segment, but you know what I mean. But it's even made me think twice because I could have voted Reform. Now, if they've capitulated to basically our worst enemies, because as I say, Hope Not Hate are gunning for for GB News since before they even started, and they're responsible for a load of advertiser boycotts. I think it's them. There's all these other ones that stop funding hate. They're all the same.
The same
These
human beings.
people. And so it's like, hang on, if you are capitulating to the people that try and destroy us every day, it does give you pause. Like, can you vote for these people?
It's a handful of spiteful mutants. I don't know how they wield so much power, you know.
Well, they wield 0 power unless you give it them.
Well, right.
And that's the big story for me. Because, I mean, if you go through the other candidates who were purged, for example, they're pretty nothing burgers. Like this guy, he was a fan of Tommy Robinson, so they kicked him
I love that.
just for that. Okay. And then there's another lady. She said that this guy, his parents are Sri Lankan, and he was a BBC presenter who was saying that he didn't like being around white people. So the candidate said, well, maybe you should be deported to a black country then. Maybe you feel better there. And they kicked her for that. It was like, really?
It's 'cause
She's making the point that if you hate white people, maybe don't be around them, and you kick her. Why? Because Hope Not Hate said so. That's not Hope Not Hate with any power. That's you giving them power.
capitulating, absolutely folding like a cheap suit. It's because he doesn't want to like go on Robert Peston. Robert Peston, there's a racist in your party and you haven't fired them. Ergo, you're a racist. He'll do anything than let that happen. I mean, it's not leadership, is it? Apart from anything else, it's not leadership. I mean, and all these views and the views I put in that article, which I published long before I ever was asked to join Reform. So it's on them. They never did any research into what I've written or done. They're the views that the vast majority, it seems now, of native Brits hold those views. It's not extreme, Nick Lowles. It's not extreme. It's normal. It's reality.
Go to any pub.
Hi folks, thanks for watching. If you'd like to support us, you can go over to lotusceast.com and sign up for £5 a month and go and check out Dan's amazing Brokenomics series. In this particular episode, he's talking about why Bitcoin is back in the bull market. And if you'd like further updates from us, go to Twitter and follow us on lotusceaters_com. Thanks very much.